A wonderful good day and a very warm welcome to a new video. Today I want to take a look with you at the Golf 5 BLS engine, model year 2008. We're going to replace the timing belt on that one. And we've ordered a timing belt kit that includes the water pump, idler pulley, tensioner pulley, and the timing belt itself. We'd like to tackle that now, and I'd say let's get started. Here's what it all looks like. Let's remove the cover for a moment. To replace the timing belt, we first need to detach the charge pipe right here. Let's remove the sensor. With a size 30 Torx, we'll now remove this one screw here. First, loosen two screws from the fuel line. We need to take out these components here so we can access the engine mount, since the engine mount must be removed in order to properly reach and service the timing belt assembly. Let's detach this whole thing now. Move the wiring harness to the side, and then we have two Torx screws here. We can take that off as well. We'll use the 20 Torx. With a 10mm socket, we can now also unscrew the fuel filter, or the fuel filter holder. So, there are 3 fasteners in total, or more specifically, 2 screws and 1 nut. So, and then we can set this whole thing aside over here. I'll probably take off a few more parts from here, so you can have a clearer and better view of everything. But it's actually enough if we just set this whole thing aside here. Then you can already access the motor mount here, and the entire assembly can just stay off to the side like this. And now we can actually go ahead and remove the timing belt cover already. First here. Once down here. And then we'll take a look at the pretty thing once again. Then we'll already see the timing belt. So we'll finish everything underneath now, and then we can unscrew the engine mount once. Let's remove the cover here. We'll need a 20 Torx tool for this. With a 30 Torx, we'll carefully loosen the 3 bolts here at the back. Here you'll find 3 screws. From the cover, which is split by the way, here there was also one more screw. Next we're going to remove the flat belt. For this task, we'll need a 16mm crowned ring wrench. Gently push it to one side and then proceed to carefully remove the belt from its current position. Using a 10mm multi-spline tool, we'll now proceed to unscrew the crankshaft pulley here. So, We finally managed to get it off. Here we can see the wheel clearly. There's also a mark, by the way, but we'll come back to that a bit later on. Here's also a mark, by the way, a notch. We can actually roughly adjust it to the way we need it to be, pretty straightforward. But this marking is the most important. With a 10mm socket, we're going to unscrew the 4 bolts here now, so we can remove the cover. With something like this, you have to be careful now, otherwise they'll break on us. Twist pieces back and forth. Loctet was printed on it. That's why you have to twist it back and forth a few times. Then they come out without any trouble. This is part of it. Down here we're already loosening one of the screws. For the motor mount, because we won't be able to reach it later. For that, we need a 16. And a 10 is tucked away here, which we can already prepare and set aside to use later. The 10's here, all set to use. So I've got the motor propped up on a wooden block here, nice and steady. Now we're going to loosen and take off the motor mount. We'll grab a 13mm socket and get started on that step right away, no problem at all. We'll grab a 16mm socket. We prefer to first unscrew the motor with an 18mm socket. And now we're unscrewing the motor mount or motor bracket with a 16mm socket. Next we need to unscrew this bracket now. For that we'll use an M12 spline tool. With a 16mm ring spanner, we'll approach it from the back or from below, depending on where you can best access it. And then we'll proceed to carefully unscrew the bracket. Now we need to completely unscrew the spanner entirely. In order to access the lower screw, we need to tighten the spanner. Using a 16mm wrench and a drill. Push it all the way back once completely. Now we can also take out the cover, and then we'll see the water pump, the idler pulley, and at this point we can lock everything in place and remove the timing belt completely. Now you have to pay attention to a few things, namely turning the timing belt and inserting the locking tool here once. In this case, it's now a drill. And important, there's this locking tool. There are two versions of it, specifically from the year 2004. That means up to the year 2004 and starting from the year 2000 onwards. Important, we need to set the engine to top dead center. In this engine we have TDC marks, or where the locking tool goes in. Here you can see that this needs to go in here. There's a hole, and I've now inserted a drill bit directly into that specific spot. There's a blocking tool available, but you need to be careful since there are two different types of it. Purchase link in the description, and there are these arrows. Whether the arrow is placed here or here. It's already set at the bottom. I'll film the bottom part again in a moment, and you just have to keep turning it until the whole thing here slips out entirely and the locking tool is firmly and securely in place at the bottom. So this is what it looks like from below. The locking tool is in place. And here's a marking, which is very hard to see for you. There is the marking. And it has to align with this one. There are basically two options, either a marking here or here. And with the 1.9 BLS, it's definitely the case that the marking is here. It has to align. Here we are at the crankshaft. Then we'll grab the 15mm socket. Click. Then the whole thing gets loosened. So then we have it here. We can already see that it has already taken a bit of a hit, of course, with the mileage. So yeah, the water pump's removed and the idler pulley's taken out. Let's clean this whole thing up. So with the 13mm, we'll now unscrew the idler pulley. That's what it looks like. For now, with a 10mm socket and a short extension, we'll now take off the water pump carefully. So there we have the water pump. Now, once we clean everything up, we can install the new water pump. The whole thing, I already blew it out and cleaned it thoroughly. It's really crucial to blow out the areas where the screws go in one more time. So, new gasket on, water pump. The screws on the water pump are tightened to 15 Newton meters. We're mounting the idler pulley. The studs can be redone, and it's included in the sentence. Personally, I just find it completely unnecessary at the moment, but I'll put a new nut on and add thread lock. So the pulley gets tightened to 20 Newton meters, and then I'll apply thread lock to secure it. Now we'll put the timing belt back on. It's crucial to pay attention, as you have a pin here. And the pin acts as a guide for proper alignment. Don't just randomly put it on and tighten it without care, otherwise the lever here could easily end up bending. So we'll be putting on both the tensioner and the timing belt at the same time. Before we put the timing belt on, it's very important to loosen these 3 screws here. So I've already loosened them a bit. So I don't have to use too much force now. But I'm holding it steady with a counter hold. So the camshaft gear needs to be turned all the way to the right, so that when the tensioner tightens everything up, we'll have plenty of space to work on it properly here. That there's even a chance to tighten it further in that specific direction, that means turning it all the way to the right. The blocking tool is in place. Now it's absolutely crucial to insert the supplied mandrel here, so it doesn't pre-tension the entire assembly for us right from the very beginning. So pay attention to the nose here, so it goes into the cylinder head properly. So then we take the nut and put a lock piece on it. I'll do it now first without. Then we take the new timing belt. Make sure the printed text here faces in this direction. So we'll place it at the bottom now. Now we'll apply some Loctite to it. Just give it a slight pre-tightening. The timing belt should now be seated everywhere. Check the fit. We'll turn it a few times later anyway. Important to make sure that no oil, coolant, or any liquids get on the timing belt. That's very important. Now we can take the pin out. And then we can turn it here in the direction of travel, just like it would move when driving. Yes. Zoom. There's a display. Let me show you real quick. Specifically here, this arrow moves into this slot. And that's the optimal setting. We're going to adjust it slightly forward because we still need to rotate the whole thing. And over the years, it loosens or stretches a bit, and because of that, the whole thing becomes a bit looser over time. That's why we try to position it slightly further ahead. Not that it's here, but just a little bit more. That's exactly what we're doing now. The tensioner requires 20 Newton meters plus 45 degrees, although personally I think 45 degrees is a bit excessive. Then we go ahead and tighten everything up. They will. From one timing belt to another, always end up sitting in a slightly different spot, at least that's how I see it. We'll now proceed to secure the entire assembly in place. As for the gear, the bolts need to be torqued to 25 Newton meters. We take the locking tool out. By the way, this is a 5mm drill bit. Once the locking tools are removed, we turn the engine over twice. So we turn the crankshaft twice. Alright, now is the time. I'm asking for 2 more turns. So, when we've turned it all the way around once, then put the locking tools back in, check if everything fits, make sure the spanner fits. And yeah, then the whole thing here was sorted. You can see the spanner there. How it needs to align perfectly to get the job done just right and secure. And then we can reassemble the entire setup. So the crankshaft pulley was turned at the bottom using a 19mm socket. Put the engine holder back in its place. The screws get 20 Newton meters plus 90 degrees. So then we proceed to carefully reattach all of the covers back in place. So then the tensioner goes back in. Both screws get 25 Newton meters. Then we take the drill out once. The 2 screws that attach the engine mounts to the body are tightened to 40 Newton meters plus 90 degrees. "90 will be too much. The screws should be tightened to 60 Newton meters and 90 degrees. "90 degrees will also be too much in my opinion. We can go ahead and install the timing belt cover right now. Then we can pretty much put the rest of the components back together. In speed mode even, because you've all already seen how we disassembled it. You're welcome. And yeah, like I mentioned, we did it in speed mode, which you've all already seen in the video when we took it apart step by step. It was pretty quick and efficient, just the way we planned it. So this is what it can look like when you want to change the gear. Naturally, you'll need to top up the coolant, let the engine run warm, and carefully ensure everything is sealed properly so the system can effectively bleed itself. That the coolant level is correct. Check for leaks, ensure the water pump is sealed. A replacement interval of 150,000 or 6 years. You need to pay attention to when the next replacement should be done, or when your first change has to be made. Otherwise, buy everything linked below in the video description. And what comes with that? Otherwise, if anything comes to mind, leave it in the comments below. And yeah, if you like the whole thing, give it a thumbs up, drop a subscription. See you